got such a beautiful voice. I'm telling you, if I could sing that way, you'd have to tote me food. You know, you saw the truck that used to advertise on they all over the roads. We've been toting freight since '28. I forget what line that was. Well, you'd be toting me food if I could sing that way. Thank you, Kathy. I'm telling you. And believe it or not, she had knee surgery not long ago. I don't know how that affects your voice, but
All of us.
all does. But it's awfully good. Our passage this morning comes from the Exodus, the first chapter. And you kind of see why I could not show a video this morning of our service, because before the service started, because this is a much different topic than normal. Exodus 1, verse 1 through 14. And she's fine if you wanted it. She's fine. She can yell out all she wants. Now these are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob. They came each one with his household. Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, and Gad, and Asher. All the persons who came from the loins of Jacob were 70 in number. But Joseph was already in Egypt. And Joseph died and did all his brothers, and all that generation, but the sons of Israel were fruitful, and increased greatly, and multiplied, and became exceedingly mighty, so that the land was filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, or else they will multiply, and in the event of war, they will also join themselves to those who hate us, and fight against us, and depart from the land. So they appointed taskmasters over them to afflict them with hard labor. And they built for Pharaoh storage cities at Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread out, so that they were in dread of the sons of Israel. The Egyptians compelled the sons of Israel to labor rigorously, and they made their lives bitter, and hard labor in mortar and bricks, and at all kinds of labor. In the field, all their labors which they rigorously imposed on them. Craig is Aunt Marion's son, my first cousin. Craig is, he has studied the family from head to toe. I mean, all over creation. And it's more than just finding pieces of paper. He has found locations all the way back to Virginia, where the first Castellos or Wits or that heritage comes from. You know, he has studied the Petersons. He has studied the Palmers. He has studied just about everybody, hasn't he? It's just an amazing thing. So he came home not long ago and he said, I have visited a place in Virginia where some of the first of our kin came in. The buildings are still there. Going back, I don't know, maybe 1700s. Really old, really old. But they're still standing. He amazes me every time. So he's identified people that we're kin to from Virginia all the way to Georgia and all the places in between. The popularity of this thing called genealogy is growing. A lot of people do it for a hobby. A lot of people are involved in it. You know, you see it all the time. A person is talking about getting somebody to help them. The Mormons are a big, they do a lot of this. If you're looking at television, you'll see Ancestors.com, and that's frequently advertised. So you can go back and find along your lineage. In the past, it was impossible to find out, particularly, especially if you were black, where you came from. And now with DNA testing, they can tell you almost the tribe that you were in. Not only in Africa, but I guess in any other country. But they can pinpoint pretty precise, pretty good. There are people who want to know their family tree, and they do it mostly for getting into the DAR. I know right now. I know Angela could get into the DAR because of the work that I don't know who did it, but anyway, there's a lot of work been done on our family, and it may have been through Craig, but the DAR, she could be in the DAR. Sons of the Confederacy. If you work back and you find out who you had that a family member that fought for the Confederacy, you could be a member of the Sons of the Confederacy. But sometimes you find out that you don't want to go back. You may find some dirt that you don't want to find. You may find that all your money that you have and all that wealth and all that land came from a bootlegger or somebody who stole it. So you may find out just the opposite of what you were looking for, thinking how wonderful your kin have been and how Christian they were. Nations are obsessed at times. Nations are obsessed with genealogy, and a lot of times when they're obsessed, they're looking at restrictive nationalism. That was was stood out prominently before World War II, especially with the Germans. The Japanese historians will talk about the imperial throne that has gone back 1,500 years for the same family. That emperor, that family has been in power. And then the Nazis, they wanted to show a pure Aryan race. But having said all of that, it falls way short of what the Jews are able to do. Because they can go back and follow their lineage and have at their disposal anything they need, carrying them back ages. Today there are three groups of Jews. There are those who are of Aaron, those who are of Levi, and the rest of them are clumped under Israelites. And I said this before to you. There was a study, and it's done in the survival of the sickest. As a matter of fact, if you want to go to the survival of the sick, it'd be on page 62. But they were talking about the DNA of a particular Jewish group. There are Jews who said, and have said all along, that they were of the lineage of Aaron. There are Jews who said all along that they are from Levi, and they've adamantly held to that. Well, the researchers have gone back and did DNA studies, and they found that no matter where these people came from, if they came from Asia, if they came from Europe, Western, Northern, Southern Europe, it didn't matter whether they came from Africa. Those who said that they came from either Levi or Aaron, when they did the DNA studies, the Y chromosome was similar in all cases. Not in all Jews, because not the ones who said, I'm an Israelite, I'm maybe from some other tribe. No, those who said that they were from Levi or Aaron. Science may be able to show that, but the Jews have been able to tell you that all along. They didn't need DNA testing. Paul could tell you about his lineage. He says, of circumcised on the 8th day, of the nation of Israel, the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, and of the law, a Pharisee. Now, how long and how far back can you go with your heritage? How far back can you go? As Christians, we may, and I'm one of them, you may not be able to go back further than Grady Durden, and that's about me. I know very little about my past, and in some ways I'm afraid to look. You're afraid to go back too far, because I know the Durdens. But as Christians, we believe that we're from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We believe that also as American citizens. And we are a diverse group of people. We're coming from all over the world, but everybody that comes here and takes that oath of citizenship feel like they were with George Washington at wherever he was fighting. They feel that they were, every bit of the blood that was shed was their blood once they take that oath. They were with George Washington in some way or the other. And every Jew that became a Jew as a proselyte, who was converted to Judaism, believed with all of their heart and soul that they escaped from Egypt. And as Christians, every one of us believe that we crossed the Red Sea. That's where our heritage is. The passage this morning in 1:8, it says, now a new king arose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. Later generations of the Hebrews, they appreciated this Joseph and what he had done for Jacob as well as for the people of Egypt. But what if Joseph had never died? I want you to think about it. What if he had never died? Although that's not a possibility, but his children very well could have risen to the same position that he did. What if they had become so comfortable in Egypt that they didn't want to leave? I don't think people realize that this thing with we have the Hispanics coming across the southern border of Georgia, they come in, of the United States, they come in across from everywhere in the world. And in Europe, the Italians Italy is having problems with the people coming from Bolivia, I think it is. So the other day, how many people died trying to get over to, I think it's, I'm correct, and it's to Italy. They died in about 1,500, was it? I don't know, it was a huge number. Do you know, Stuart? It was a huge number. The boat capsized, and it does this on a regular basis. People have been trying to go across borders and get away from conflict for years and years, or centuries. And matter of fact, what people don't realize is that when Joseph went down and into Egypt, that he was not that family was not the only one. You had the Hyksos, you had all the other groups that were coming in, and they were all coming into Egypt. There was no way for the Egyptians to overcome all that mass of people coming in. So when we think about that one family, that 75 or 72 or whatever, we miss the concept. They were flooding into Egypt. They took over Egypt. They couldn't hold them back. But what if the children of Israel had become so comfortable and Jacob had never died? So it was a blessing that he died. It was a blessing that a new king came to the throne who never knew Joseph. Because the world would have been different if they had become comfortable. I I think it's apropos. The Mount Vernon Cemetery. There are a lot of people that have meant a lot to this town in that cemetery. There are a lot of people who have done a lot of good. And they did wonderful things. But there are a lot of people that are in there that Mount Vernon is a better place. Because their death did away with a lot of prejudice. A lot of doubt about progress and about doing things. The new generation that came along and has come along has said, we're going to try something, but the older generation said, no, that will not work. So they never did try. They did it, and lo and behold, it all worked. Although there are many great persons buried in Mount Vernon, there are those who held back things. It was their death that maybe helped for their children to accomplish things. Now the new king over Egypt gave the sons of Jacob another gift. A king came to the throne who didn't know it. That was one time knowing the heritage worked out real well. But he decided, well, how are we going to handle all this influx? And now that they are growing and they're increasing, the Bible says, but the descendants of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong so that the land was filled with them. He was afraid that the foreigners were going to take over, and that's where a lot of people are today. They're afraid of all this immigration but the immigration is going to impact us. To turn the tide around, he decided, well, what we're going to do is we're going to make it harder for them. So the Bible says they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with heavy burdens. And they built the Pharaoh's storage houses of Pithom and Ramesses. There's one lesson that we can learn from history. Very important lesson. Hard times produces stronger people. And difficult times produces stamina. So prosperity a lot of times will do just the opposite. And we, as the missionary with a Gideon speaker the other day said, and it is true, that in the United States there are more and more and more people who are falling away from the church, falling away from Christ. But those countries around the world are growing, Christians are growing faster than the birth rate. Wherever persecution is taking place, Christianity is growing. Wherever there is prosperity, it's dying. It should be, you would think it would be just the opposite of that. But I've known that for a long time. I remember a Sunday school class that I said it then, that Sherry and I were in North Carolina, at First Baptist Church in Wake Forest. And the people, and we had a fellow in there from Nigeria, and he says, he was attending seminary. He said, one day we're going to be sending, Obama was his name. He said, we're going to be sending missionaries to the United States. And he's right. There are people being sent today to this country from foreign countries to this country. And Jesus, the Israelites, let me say this, the Israelites, they didn't find things easy by any means, but they kept growing mightier and mightier. After Jesus was raised Lazarus, the Pharisees were saying to each other, if we let him go on like this, all men will believe in him. And the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. So what they came up with? The solution was, we're going to kill him. And when the process of wanting to kill him, what did they do? They started spreading. They started moving from Jerusalem to Judea, to Samaria, and to all the parts of the world. That prophecy that Caiaphas said, and he says, you don't want to kill him. That prophecy, what he was telling them, was absolutely true. Don't persecute him. In a way. If it's going to die, it's going to die. But let it die on its own. The more Stevenses were killed, you know, in the book of Acts, the more Stevenses were killed, the more people like Paul persecuted the Christians. They started scattering. They started growing. They started carrying the message that God had said to them, and Jesus, go therefore and make disciples of the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The word began to spread. Souls were coming to Christ, and people were being changed. Paul's life exemplifies this persecution, thing of persecution. He says, the more he was persecuted, the stronger he became. He says, I count all things to be lost in view of the surpassing value of knowing Jesus Christ, my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things. You did him wrong when you started persecuting him. Paul became a dangerous man now that he was being persecuted. Many people come to America with not anything on them but their shirt on the backs. And they come here to find a new life. And when they take the oath of allegiance to this country, they feel like they have come to the promised land. And as Christians, we must, if you want to talk about your heritage, we must look at the past in our new country. I know it's wonderful to look at your, study your heritage, but we are now citizens of heaven. And as citizens of heaven, we try to do the things on earth as they would be done in heaven. Our heritage no longer matters. Life has started over. We're a new people living in a new country. And the Red Sea experience is ours. We go back 3,180 years. We go all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And if you read the genealogy in the Bible, that's your genealogy. Think about it. Life is different when you give your life to Christ. We're going to open the doors of the church today for you to make a decision about adding to your heritage. We're going to turn our hymn books and turn to page 601. We're going to sing that twice. 601.